This is Alligator in Alignment. We're getting ready to do a show with my son, Cowboy Dhani, and a part of the show is about misinformation. Um, and I don't know how many of you all are familiar with Bill Withers, an incredible songwriter. Uh, Ain't No Sunshine Which Is Gone is the thing everybody remembers him for, Grandma's Hands. But he wrote some really incredible, insightful songs. I'm going to do what I'm called Take It All In. This fits the podcast that we're gonna do, because people need to stop swallowing misinformation and check it out. Go check it out and find out the truth. So let's give it a roll here. Bill Withers, Take It All In. You can fill up a room with idle conversation. You can shake up a whole damn nation with your mouth. But before you start to show your indignation about a situation, you ought to take it all in and check it all out. You hear me? You ought to take it all in and check it all out. You gotta find out what it's all about. You ought to take it all in and check it all out. You can create a boom with catchy information. You can shake up a lot of people if you shout. But before you begin to grin about the success of your creation, you ought to take it all in and check it all out. Pay attention now. You ought to take it all in and check it all out. Find out what it's all about. You ought to take it all in and check it all out. I tell all of my friends this over and over. You can make up a plan with aimless dedication. You can hang up 1,000,000 slogans all over your house. But before you put it into operation, before you man your station, you ought to take it all in and check it all out. You ought to take it all in and check it all out. You gotta find out what it's all about. You ought to take it all in and check it all out. Hey, hey, hey. Oh, oh. Check it in. Remember, don't just be a parrot. Get the information. Find out what it's all about. One more time. You can fill up a room with catchy information. I'm going to tell you again. You can shake up a whole damn nation with your mouth. But before you start to show your indignation about a situation, you ought to take it all in and check it all out. You can create a boom with catchy information. You can shake up a lot of people if you shout. But before you begin to grin about the success of your creation, you ought to take it all in and check it all out. You get me? You ought to take it all in and check it all out. You gotta find out what it's all about. You ought to take it all in and check it all out. One more thing. You can make out a plan with aimless dedication. You can hang up 1,000,000 slogans all over your house. But before you begin to put it into operation, before you man your station, you ought to take it all in and check it all out. You hear what I say? You ought to take it all in and check it all out. You gotta find out what it's all about. You ought to take it all in and check it all out. You ought to take it all in and check it all out. Find out what it's all about. You ought to take it all in and check it all out. Remember that. Check it out before you start going blah, 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 blah. Anyway, on to the podcast. And my son, Cowboy Dhani, is back with me today. I'm very happy about that. Okay, I want to take just a brief second here. If you want to help support me, please hit the like button, hit the subscription button, and do a favor, share this with your friends from you, okay? Sort of help to get the word out. This will help me greatly. Thank you so much. Okay, all of you out there, this is Alligator in Alignment. I'm very happy to have my co-host, my son, Cowboy Dhani, back. He's been very, very busy with his work and hasn't been able to participate. We're going to speak briefly on, even though I said I was going to stay away from politics, but this is geopolitics. We're going to speak briefly on the TikTok ban. Now, I've been working to get me onto TikTok and into the thing, but my desire to be on the platform is overridden by the harm that maybe the platform does to the security of America. And Donnie knows a lot more about it than I do. Could you elaborate on that, son?
Yeah, so TikTok is a Chinese company with a Taiwanese CEO that has an American enterprise within it, underneath it. So the company that owns everything is called ByteDance. This is Chinese. And then there's a TikTok China division, a TikTok North America division. And that North America division is what Congress has said either needs to be sold to a Western country or a non-antagonistic country, specifically in a congressional decision that was made by both sides of the aisle, that was signed into agreement by the president and then was ratified as not encroaching upon the First Amendment by the Supreme Court. So all three branches of government has basically signed off on this. Why do you think that they want to ban it or want to force them to sell?
I think it's because if the Chinese are competitors, we could even say enemies, and if they are controlling this thing, it allows them to gather all kinds of information on American citizens. The algorithms and all that stuff, they will know who is leaning this way, who leans that way, who is in, where your mindset is, and that allows them to select people to send bots and propaganda to, knowing that it fits into their mindset already.
Right.
Now, that is for that reason, we don't need our enemies
having that sort of access. Yeah.
Yes, having the capacity to do that, and the fact that they won't sell it to an American company,
which they have given the chance. They've had a good grip of time. I think like 180 days to do that, and they've had offers, and for whatever reason they haven't acquiesced. Now, I think before we move on, I think there's two things you touched on there. Is one, the collection of data, and then two, the ability to disseminate information. So there's 170 million TikTok accounts in the United States. Now, probably not 170 million people have them, because some kids have 2 accounts, 3 accounts for whatever reason, or people that have a business and a personal. But you could say, let's say half of those have it. What would that be? 100 and quick math, 80, or that'd be 85 million people. If like half of the accounts are, go to individuals, that's a large percentage of the United States. There's 330 million people here. That's, oh man, I'm making myself doing a lot of math. It's like 25% of the population has it, right? Now, being able to see demographic trends throughout a nation like this is important. A lot of folks, when they're hearing about this TikTok ban, they could be thinking, oh, okay, well, all these other companies have our data. What's the difference if one more has it? But with social media specifically, having what makes people watch for longer, what gets them engaged, that seems like kind of meaningless data, but you can do a lot with that, I think. Like, for example, if I had, let's say the city of Oakland, If I was able to see what all those people watched, what they swiped past, what they stayed on, what they engaged with, what made them,
Yes.
send it to their friends, what they thought was funny, what they thought was mad. Like, this is a really keen eye into, like, the psyche of the population.
Valuable information.
And so not only are they able to gain this information, but potentially, if they wanted to show folks certain things in order to influence some change, is a huge insight, and not just a huge insight into America, but a huge influence into America. And if a country that was antagonistic, as China always has been, since like the end of the Cold War, we've been butting heads, whether you want to call it like communist versus capitalism or totalitarianism versus democracy, like whatever you want to attribute it to, they have been antagonistic towards us. There's active conflict about Taiwan, about the East China Sea, and there's always cyber hackings going on back and forth, and that is, I think, a huge national security risk, 100%. So yeah, those two things that you were touching on I agree with 100%, is the insight into our data and then the ability to disseminate information and propaganda and real subtly get folks moving in whatever direction you want to as a foreign antagonistic power. It's just too much.
So what we're basically saying is that we both agree with the banning of TikTok.
Before we move off of the subject of TikTok, I did want to say two things about the folks that oppose the ban of TikTok. They cite the First Amendment as a reason why it shouldn't be banned, that saying that you can't use a platform is to infringe upon free speech. And I don't think that's the case. You're allowed to say whatever you want on all these apps, right? As long as you don't violate the terms of service. The First Amendment is between the country and the individual. It's not between the private company and the individual. That's why, you can get kicked out of a, place for not wearing shoes and shirt or whatever, or like why small businesses have signs that say we have reserved the right to refuse service to anybody. That's not an infringement of First Amendment. It's between the country and the individual. Now, a country banning an app isn't banning free speech, because you're still allowed to say whatever you'd like as long as it doesn't violate the terms on Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat or whatever other social media you're using. It's not a First Amendment issue. It's a national security issue. Like them having access to this. Now they say, all the data is stored in warehouses in Texas or whatever for TikTok already because it's a North American division. But the access that a company like China has even to those stores, whether or not the data is duplicated back in mainland China or whatever the case may be, these are all potential security risks. And the fact that ByteDance, the umbrella company, won't sell that North America division to somebody and they'd rather just have it be banned and taken off the App Store is pretty indicative that if another company or another individual were to get their hands on that TikTok North America, they'd probably find a bunch of backdoors where data is already flowing out from America to China. So the second point being, all these other companies have our data. Why can't China? Companies like Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, all the other major social media companies are based in North America. Now, it's not a problem because that's us, and our government doesn't have their hands up the backs of our media companies and our social media companies like the CCP does. If you're going to be a journalist in China, you have to be an agent of the state. It's completely government controlled. Now we have, PBS or across the pond, BBC and NPR. These are state-funded media sources, but they're not state directed, if that makes sense.
That's the difference.
And that's a big difference. And also, the main media companies are not these. These are just public broadcasts and things that the government finds important to fund. But, most of our billionaires in the tech, they're in Fox and CBS and NBC that are not government funded anyway. So there's no comparison between American media and social media companies and companies like that, their counterparts in Beijing or in the rest of China. So, those two main points that people that are opposing the ban, I don't think there's really any grounds there. Now, there's about 7 million accounts in America that are business accounts where people make money off of views and things like that. And it is really unfortunate for those folks, of course. But I'm sure they can take that platform and parlay it into an American platform and bring their following or a good chunk of it, right? I mean, all of the same services and, payment agreements on view counts and engagement. I'm sure they're offered in Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and all these other platforms that they could be posting on. So I don't think it's going to be a huge hit to the American economy, clearly, but I do think it's worth the folks that are going to be affected by it to ensure our national security. So that was just the last part I wanted to add about TikTok. But I know there's some other things kind of surrounding this issue you'd like to talk about.
Yeah. Just like I said, this is, we call it the world of information, but it has become the world of misinformation. That seems to be the problem. And as long as they have access to, I guess, the algorithms, they call them, where they can tell which way you're leaning, what you're thinking, and they can send out bots specifically to influence you. Mm-hmm. That is dangerous for our country. I mean, it's just dangerous. Now, I don't want to get on the political side of the thing, but our incoming president was strictly against TikTok for years. Mm. And then as soon as one of his billionaire buddies bought into it, he quickly switched, and now he's for TikTok. We can't have that type of thing. But let's just, the misinformation sometimes is sort of humorous. Mm. A friend called me this morning and told me, he says, the Obama and Michelle are getting divorced because of some disagreements and stuff. And I looked at it, and it's totally false. And then the same person said, yeah, did you know that Michelle Obama was a man? I heard that a couple of years ago. And, these things are just laughable. Just absolutely laughable.
Yeah, they say that about strong black women a lot. They say like, especially the ones that are like Michelle's in shape. She ran that whole campaign about getting children healthy again. They said a lot of that about the Williams sisters, like, oh, they're really men and blah blah blah. And it's just, I don't know what it is, why that keeps coming up, but it's racist. You know what I'm saying?
And recently, my friend said Obama and Michelle are getting divorced and blah blah blah, and so I told this friend, I said, listen, give me a minute and I'll call you back. And I went and checked it. Of course, there's no truth to it. When I first heard it, I realized there was no truth to it. Another little thing here is the hypocrisy that goes along with a lot of this propaganda. One of the things that Americans don't do anymore is they read stuff and they, like a parrot, they go parroting what they read, and they never go underneath to see what are the details.
Right.
This whole thing about Michelle Obama not going to Trump's inauguration. The fact is that 6 presidents did not attend their successors' inauguration, and only one of them did it, not because he was angry with the incoming president. John Adams didn't go to miss his successor's inauguration. John Quincy Adams did also. Andrew Johnson did, and in the 20s, Woodrow Wilson did it. Mm. Now, it didn't happen again until Richard Nixon.
But he had just gotten
he had just gotten
resigned,
flapped. Yeah,
and it would have hurt Ford's presidency.
Yeah. So the reason he did it, there was no animosity there. Mm-hmm. Okay, and since Richard Nixon, the only person who has done it with animosity since the 1920s, when Woodrow Wilson did, is
none other than
Donald Trump.
Yep.
Now, when they're arguing that Michelle Obama's not going to the thing and how horrible it is and blah 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 blah, the propagandists always leave out pertinent information. They are not going to ever say Donald Trump didn't attend Biden's inauguration, nor did Melania.
Right.
Okay, and Michelle is not the president. She's the first lady. She's his wife. Obama is attending it,
but he's not the president either.
Yeah. But Biden is attending.
And I'm sure it's Jill. I'm sure.
Yeah. So it's just laughable. I used to get a little upset about the thing, but now when I hear all of these things, it's actually comical. I understand how come the comedians have such
Yeah, they're
such
probably
a
more.
field day with it.
Yeah, they're probably more excited than anybody.
So
for,
anyway, I'm
January
just letting
20th.
people know that what you got to do is when you read something, don't just eat it up like baby food and then like a parrot go around saying things. It's very easy. It takes a matter of seconds these days, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. You can get the truth about just about anything.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, I remember when I was a kid, if I didn't know something, I'd have to either ask my dad, which usually solved it, and if he didn't know, then I have to go to the library and like look up a book and like read through it. Now, at all times, we have this thing in our pocket that's more powerful than what we first went to the moon with. You know what I'm saying? It has more computing power than the computers that first plotted the course that took us to the moon. Just in our pocket at all times. You can hop on Google, check a couple sources. Don't just listen to us, or don't just listen to like some article your friend sent you. Check a couple sources, maybe that have different leanings, and gather that information, and then, go through it in your mind and decide what's the truth.
Yeah,
Don't just take things at face value.
things have become so easy. When I was a kid coming up, I was always getting in trouble in elementary school, and of course, further up, because I was always correcting my teachers. Especially about historical things and stuff like that. They would say something, and I would say, "Excuse me, Mr. Jones, but that's not true."
Right.
And in order for me to, and people would always say, "Alligator, how do you know all of this stuff?" Well, it was hard work. It was hard work. I had to go to libraries and research stuff, and usually the old country libraries where I was, they didn't have the information.
Mm-hmm.
I had to, if I was going to do information on, say, Cherokee Bill, outlaw in the Indian Territory, I had to send to Fort Smith and get the official records and all of this stuff. And sometimes it would take me months to gather the truth, the information.
Right.
Now, I tell people, what you said just doesn't ring right with me. Give me 15 seconds, and I will get the information. It is amazing how we have so much information at our fingertips, and obviously the greater part of America does not use it. So anyways, it's like I understand, if I was a comedian, well, I am a comedian sometimes. If I was made my living as a comedian, I would have a field day with all of this stuff, because it's not only dangerous to the country, this misinformation, but it's funny as hell.
It is.
It is funny. So anyway, for those of you out there who are ragging on Michelle Obama for not going to the thing,
Look a little closer.
Donald Trump didn't go to Biden's inauguration, nor did his wife. On the other hand, Obama, the president, which should be at these things, he's there.
As is the current president,
Yes,
Joe
yes.
Biden.
I mean, as is Joe Biden. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, I wish that people would use the wonderful tools to get the truth that we have. The communist countries and the countries with dictators and such, their people can't get truthful information because it's all state-run. They can't. We can get the information at the drop of a hat. And I'm looking out now at all of you in America, and I'm telling you, please do yourself a favor. When you hear something, it takes a little bit of searching, very quickly, and you can find out the truth about it. And maybe I wish we would all start doing that, please. So anyway, I think this is enough of this.
Always a pleasure to come on,
Okay.
Pops. Y'all
Listen.
take care, huh?
Alligator in alignment, Cowboy Dhani. We will be talking to you again soon. Okay, keep your head grounded, and don't believe everything you hear. Okay, don't believe everything you hear. As one famous person said in our political route, and I don't think I will have to tell you who I'm talking about. He told one of his assistants, he says, "You don't have to tell the truth. Just tell a lie over and over and over again, and it becomes the truth. And you know where that comes from? Goebbels, a Nazi. So anyway, enough of that. This is Alligator in Alignment. I'm so happy to have my son here with me again, and maybe he'll join me in more of these things now once his job settles down. And we'll be in touch. Alligator in Alignment. See you later.